Dude, my eyes are so freaking huge right now.
It's Deconverted Man versus William Lane Craig.
Objection number 6. Nothing ever begins to exist, for the material of which a thing consists precedes it. So it is not true that the universe began to exist.
So let me break down the objection here into premise format. Premise 1, nothing ever begins to exist. Premise 2, for the material of which something consists of precedes it. And then the conclusion, so it is not true that the universe began to exist, which could also be seen as another premise building up to a bigger or greater conclusion. Nonetheless, I would object to the first premise. You cannot know that nothing ever begins to exist. It is a claim to special knowledge. I would object to that sentence based on that reason. The second premise, the material of which something consists precedes it. I would agree. I would grant that. No problem. There's no question that is scientifically accurate, that is logically accurate. There's nothing I can say against that. The conclusion, or the next premise, would be a non sequitur, and it would also be special knowledge. We don't know that the universe began to exist or didn't begin to exist. Again, this is a problematic sentence because also the universe word could be seen as vague and we could have some natural language problems here. But I would object to that. So the only one I would grant would be the second sentence, premise 2. Those should be the reasons that Craig objects to this. He doesn't object to it for that reason. He instead focuses on something completely different than what he should have focused on. Because there's good reasons to object to this objection. If this was a legitimate objection that somebody was really making and not just a straw man, then there are good reasons to object to it. There's good reasons to object to that first sentence, and there's good reasons to object to the last sentence. There is no good reason to object to the second sentence, which is amazingly what Craig goes after.
Since the assertion that nothing ever begins to exist is so patently ridiculous, did I exist before I was conceived?
Oh, Craig, you are so hilariously not funny. So, okay, we're going to do this red herring, I guess. What Craig is about to do, and what Craig is preparing for, is another logical fallacy, beyond red herring. No. What we're going to experience together here is the construction of a straw man. Sit and enjoy with me, unless you're standing up listening to this for whatever reason, then stand and enjoy with me as Craig constructs a straw man and then objects to that straw man rather than objecting to the actual objection, which he could have legitimately done. I objected to the objection for logically coherent reasons. But let's watch as Craig objects to it for illogically coherent reasons.
Has the World Trade Center always existed? If so, why didn't the Native American Indians notice it? This objection obviously confuses a thing with the matter or stuff of which the thing is made. Just because the stuff of which something was made has always existed doesn't imply that the thing itself has always existed.
So, looking again at this objection, first of all, nothing began to exist, special knowledge claim, I have to object to that. The material of which something consists of precedes it, I agree. So, if the universe is made of material, then that material has to exist before the universe existed. I grant 2. I can't grant 3 because of the way it's worded. But if the universe itself is made out of things, like little subatomic particles and stuff, and those things had to exist before the universe, then yes, it would be true. But I don't know that that's the case, because the laws of physics begin to break down at that point, and we can't use science to examine behind the beginning, quote unquote, of the universe, or if there is such a thing. Things begin to break down at that point. So I would just say, I don't know, and I would put up my hands, I would walk away from it and say, leave that to the cosmologists. It's beyond me at this point. It's beyond a logician, and I think it's beyond a philosopher, to be perfectly honest with you. But nonetheless, I don't think that we can say much about the beginning or the origin of the universe. But if we wanted to put this into a logical format, I would change how this was worded completely. I would say something like, if the universe is like other observed phenomenon, in that said phenomenon requires the material that they are made of to exist before they can become what they are, then the universe's materials exist prior to the universe. It follows then that the universe's materials existed prior to the universe if the above is true, and that the universe is made from said materials.
Now, since writing this talk, it has occurred to me that the objector could save himself from the embarrassment of affirming that he has always existed by adopting what's called mereological nihilism.
Okay, so here's where the straw man begins. And it begins now. I have been told by some that I need to be a selfless, however you say that, or that I have to be a naturalist, or I have to be a materialist. I don't have to be any of those things. And it happens that I am not any of those things. I don't know what philosophical idea I fall into, if any at all. Maybe I don't fall into any. When I say I'm a skeptic, even that is something that doesn't really adequately describe the way that I look at things. To tell me what my philosophy should be or could be is no more than a construct straw man. It is to create my arguments for me. You believe X. You think X. You must think X. Well, but Craig is saying that they could adopt it, not that they should. I don't care. He's still making a straw man. And I think that also it should be noted that he is already agreeing, kind of, with one of the premises of the objection. He's agreeing to the idea that the small particles of the universe existed before the universe. He has to. In order to make this objection relevant to his discussion, he has to accept that this is the truth of the matter. In order for his red herring construct straw man to be relevant to his side, he has to agree with this assertion, which means that something did exist before the universe, which invalidates other objections that he made before. But, oh well, whatever. Continue, please, Craig, with your construct straw man.
Which is the view that there are no composite objects. That is to say, all that exists are just fundamental particles which are arranged in various ways. So in fact, there really are no chairs or tables or horses or people or palm trees. There are just fundamental particles which are arranged chair-wise or table-wise or people-wise. And so in denying that he ever began to exist, the objector isn't affirming that he's always existed. Rather, what he's denying is that he ever does exist.
Yeah, see, so here we are at the construct straw man, off in this red herring la la land. So Craig said something interesting, I thought. In order to save yourself from embarrassment, adopt this philosophical view, which I'm then going to tell you is wrong. So how did that help them avoid embarrassment? That's just, so, I mean, it's bad advice, I guess. Too bad that's not a logical fallacy. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and skip a whole bunch of stuff for you, because he says a lot of stuff more about this red herring construct straw man that you don't need to listen to. I did. It's boring. And he tells a joke. Yeah, I'm skipping past all of that nonsense. And I don't know at this point. I'm just bored with Craig. Maybe something that he says would amuse me. Oh, hey, announcer guy voice. Do you have anything that could possibly pique my interest that Craig has said?
And now it's time for That Could Have Been Said by an Atheist!
Now, it is true, I think, that in our experience, material things do not begin to exist without material causes. So we do have the same sort of inductive evidence on behalf of material causation as we have for efficient causation.
And now, back to our show.
But if we have good arguments and evidence that the material realm had an absolute beginning preceded by nothing, this can override the inductive evidence.
And unfortunately, we don't have good arguments or evidence. Thank you, everybody. Good night. What do you mean there's more video? Alright, fine. Here we go. Back to the video.
What we cannot reasonably say, I think, is that the universe sprang into being without either an efficient or a material cause, since being does not come from non-being.
I really wish he had a logically coherent argument for that statement. It's simply asserted as if it's true. We don't know that it's true, nor do we know that it's false. So I am not, and I must make this point very clear, I am not saying that being does come from non-being. I don't know if that could be the case, because I do not have an example of not existing or not being to tell you anything about the properties that it has. I don't know. But Craig makes this assertion because this assertion is important for Craig's side of the argument, but he gives no argument to support it, so we can dismiss it because he has failed to give us an argumentation.
But there's no sort of metaphysical absurdity involved in something's having an efficient cause but no material cause.
What would it even mean for something to have an efficient non-material cause? What is that? What is non-material? The only things that we know about are material things so far. And how would we study something non-material? I don't know the answer to that. But Craig is going to say that there's no metaphysical absurdity involved. I think that there's a logical absurdity called special knowledge and special pleading. We're making a special case an exception to the rule. We're saying, well, you can have a cause that isn't material. How do you know? And it's based on this whole false dichotomy. Either the universe had a material cause or it had a non-material cause. It didn't have a material cause, so thus it has a non-material cause. How do you know? You don't know that. You don't know that that's the choice involved, first of all. You don't even know what the choice is because we have no idea. And to say that the universe has a cause, we don't even know that. Well, but everything else has a cause. Yes, and so far everything else has had a material cause. So why wouldn't the universe? There isn't any real reason why the universe wouldn't. Maybe it didn't. Maybe it had no cause. Maybe it did. Maybe the cause was material. Maybe that's all that there ever is in reality. Or maybe not. Maybe it is something else. But maybe it's something else that we haven't even considered or thought of or created yet. Maybe it's so bizarre that our minds would not even be able to assimilate the idea of what it was. Not because it's a god, but because it's just so complicated that it's beyond our understanding and ability to figure it out, at least today. Maybe it would take us centuries and we would have to evolve to understand it somehow. We'd have to heighten our intelligence to be artificially to be able to get to a point where we could understand it. Who knows? I don't. We simply do not know. We have run out of information, and we cannot make any statements about it, but yet here we are making statements about something that we cannot know something about, at least not today. Maybe tomorrow, maybe in the future we will know stuff about it, but at least for now, we don't know that much about it. So, on my opponent's side, we have logically incoherent reasons to object to an objection, which we have to be skeptical of his conclusion, which would mean that the objection is possibly a valid objection. On my side, we have logically coherent reasons to object to the objection, which means that we have to be additionally skeptical of the objection. So remember, this is DM versus WLC. Who's doing better logic? You decide, and post your comments, questions, concerns, etc. below. Thanks for posting. Keep posting stuff, because when you don't do that, I go insane and I post weird videos. That's an appeal to consequence. I'm going to end this video with a non sequitur. Turtle.